Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday weather outlook for the southern region brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. We begin first, as we typically do, with looking at the most recent precipitation. So we're seeing here the effects of Barry. Barry's track right now has taken him right in through this region over the last several days and is currently parked sitting right about in through here. That's where the remnants, the center of location, currently is as of early in the morning here on Tuesday. You can see on the right-hand side some extremely heavy rainfall over the last 3 days. Some locations picking up well over 6 inches, some places over 10 inches of rainfall. Outside of that, widely scattered showers and storms through parts of the southeast, but higher atmospheric pressures dominated parts of Texas. It has allowed for the flow to do something like this around Texas, and therefore the four corner states have seen quite a bit of shower and thunderstorm activity. With Barry sitting here, we need to see where the remnants of Barry are going to continue to go and what to expect as this broader ridge builds in behind it, which we talked about in the video on Monday. So let's get right into it. Speaking of Barry, currently a tropical depression sitting right in this area. Forecast track is to go through southern Illinois, through parts of Tennessee, Kentucky. You're actually going to see in a few minutes bands of showers pushing through this region as it slowly progresses over towards the east coast. Now the good news is that the 5-day graphical outlook here from the National Hurricane Center is showing things quite calm in the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, and in the main development region. And that's because we are really missing some stronger waves coming off of Africa at this point to initiate any systems developing there. But we're going to watch this very carefully throughout the remainder of the season, remembering that the National Hurricane Center is the best in the business at forecasting this. So what's the bigger picture then for our short term? It's going to be the heat that's building in parts of the south central United States and in parts of the Corn Belt as well. What you're looking at here is the colors. This is all flood watches and flood warnings. This is a high excessive heat advisory, and this is an excessive heat watch. So clearly ridging is taking place in the midsection of the country behind Barry. So the jet stream is retreating north into Canada, keeping things very, very hot. You can also see that still over here in coastal Carolinas, we have the excessive heat advisory as well. So this is going to be a talk about the heat that is coming and how long it's going to last and where it would be moving. So to speak about where it's moving, take a look at the jet stream right now. You can clearly see it's quite zonal, and it is pretty far to the north. And you can see underneath it this broader flow in this direction. We talked about this quite a bit recently. This is where our jet stream is heading throughout the middle and end of this week here, toward this broader ridge in the upper levels that's sitting here. And that's going to make things quite stagnant at times, but also keep that heat on, especially in the middle part of the United States. In the southern region, you're going to be dealing with a lot of upper 90s and some triple-digit heat. So let's get right into those temperatures here. We're going to start off on the day on Tuesday here, looking at high temperatures. You can see the effects of the cloud cover of Barry, keeping this region a little bit cooler than average. But we're expecting upper 90s to some lower 100s here in the southeast, also extending those upper 90s into Florida. Then as you kind of skirt along the Gulf Coast here, we drop back down into the lower 90s before going right back up into the upper 90s and lower 100s here behind Barry. I think you're going to see this picture play out quite a bit in the next couple of days. Check it out. As we play here, getting you from Tuesday into Wednesday. There you can just see the cooler from Barry moving a little bit farther to the east, but just this kind of U-shaped around it where that ridge is dominating here, bringing in the upper 90s and triple-digit heat. And so as we continue on, this is, again, Wednesday's high temperatures. Looking at Thursday, same story, just very, very high temperatures moving across a big section of the United States. Again, that jet stream doing something like this, allowing that larger dome of heat to occupy this region. That's what we should expect throughout the rest of this week. So as we continue on, this is now getting into Saturday. Same story here, very, very warm across much of the United States here. But then by the time we get into the weekend and early next week, we're going to be paying close attention to some higher atmospheric pressure that's going to be sliding down through the parts of kind of the Great Lakes states. And what that will do is that'll eventually push a front through this area. And we're going to take a look at what that front means in terms of our precipitation chances increasing as we progress out into next week. So very, very warm next 5 days ahead for us, maybe even 5 to 7 days ahead for much of the southern region here. And it's also going to be quite stormy at times too. Let's take a look at that. Just starting us off in the day here on Tuesday, getting into Tuesday evening. We're going to be watching again what's left of we call it post-tropical cyclone Barry moving through the parts of the Ohio River Valley. But we're going to watch for the potential for some storms to be pressing here through Tennessee into parts of Alabama, Mississippi, back into Arkansas as well. And also you're going to see in a few minutes that there's a chance right here along the coast for some storms to fire up later in the day today as well. And also still because of the presence of our ridge. We're going to be watching the mountains to initiate storms here in parts of New Mexico and Colorado. Texas, though, I think you're going to get away with this one pretty dry, as is Oklahoma as well. And a big story that I want to keep in mind here, and I'll show you this again at the end, is what's really helping to control and dominate this pattern, in addition to so many other things like in the Pacific and in the blocking over the northern part of the world here, I'm talking about the North Pole, is this over here. We've been mentioning that our subtropical high has been way out in the subtropics in the middle of the Atlantic, and that's a key feature to pay attention to as we move on. So let's take a look at some of our high-resolution modeling here. This is the high-resolution NAM. Again, early in the morning, widely scattered showers and storms moving through parts of Missouri and Arkansas. As we play this forward, getting into the middle of the day Tuesday, getting into Tuesday evening, I'm going to be watching this area right in through here for some stronger showers and storms to be moving through as we progress through the afternoon and evening hours. That'll be, again, on the right-hand side of what's left of Barry. So it could be some locally heavy rainfall amounts. You also notice as I step you back there, along coastal Carolinas and Virginia, chance for some storms in that area. As we progress into early Wednesday morning, we're going to watch for what could be the leftover outflow of the boundaries from those previous storms, now moving into northern Mississippi, Alabama, and could be producing at some point in the early morning some storms right into this area, but it looks as though they fade by midday. Now, this is where we started to see the storms creeping up here right along the coast. This is now Wednesday afternoon, something to be on the lookout for if you live right here on the coast of the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida. Now, you notice Texas wasn't seeing too much action as we progress through the middle of this week, but by the time Wednesday evening gets here, we're going to be watching right in through this area, New Mexico and Texas, for some stronger storms to appear in that area. But otherwise, the area that got dumped on with a lot of rain from Barry is going to get a chance to dry out here for a couple of days as we progress toward the end of this week. Just showing you, though, what the next 10 days of precipitation holds. Even though we were looking at a drier pattern outside of this area right here, we do see quite a bit more rain moving back into parts of the southeast, while this region over here in parts of Texas and Oklahoma looks to be on the drier side of things. And in general, it's because the flow of the jet stream is getting over into a pattern something like this. So the ridge, as it builds into this area, is going to be keeping much of Texas in a hot and dry situation. But we have to talk about why we're seeing more rainfall come into the southeast here. I'm going to show you what that looks like on the European model. So we're going to let this start off again early morning on Tuesday, but we're going to pause it right here Wednesday afternoon. So we've talked through this. Now what we notice is that by the time you get into Wednesday evening, there's a couple of features to kind of see here. We do notice that we've got a broader area of higher atmospheric pressure that's kind of sitting right over this area. And as you can see, kind of coming off the page here, there's a high sitting in this area. So we're kind of pushing moisture in and around something like this. And the reason why I'll leave those drawings on there, I put that, is because you're going to see, sitting on a boundary that's kind of tucked right in through here, you're going to see showers and storms perking up on Thursday and into Friday morning in that area. And that's simply because of the presence of that moisture transport in that region. But let's get those drawings off there and show you kind of where things progress from here. So dominant central Atlantic ridge here is what's feeding moisture into the Gulf Coast states. So that's where we're going to start to see some storms. But higher atmospheric pressure kind of in control across much of Texas and Oklahoma. Okay, getting you into Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. See the same thing here? Just keep seeing those storms firing up in this area. Daily afternoon convection on some of that heat. Now watch what happens as I progress into Sunday morning, getting into Sunday afternoon, same story here. But by the time we get into Sunday evening and Monday morning, we start to see a little bit different picture taking shape here. Big area of higher atmospheric pressure is going to be sliding into the northeast as we get out here to the 23rd and 24th of the month. And as that higher pressure comes in, yes, it brings cooler weather in there, but to its south, we'll kind of drape a front in this area. So that's why we also start to see, by the time we get into, again, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, more scattered showers and storms along that front, which is around this higher atmospheric pressure that's moved through the Great Lakes states. And you see it kind of sit there. Let me get those drawings up there so it's a little bit clear, but you see it sit there and hang around for a few days as that broader ridge expands. So what I'm trying to say here is that after the next couple of days, we're going to really see this area see quite a bit of shower and thunderstorm activity while things are drier here over in Texas compared to average. Now speaking of temperatures, I just want to go right out to day 10 because we've already looked at the short term. By the time the jet stream really gets into this configuration where we're getting a broader trough sitting over here, we are going to start to see temperatures get back closer to normal for much of the southern region. And as you get out here to day 15, we can really see the influence of that ridge progressing farther to the west. Now, if you're in Texas and Oklahoma, I would actually even say anywhere west of the Mississippi River, chances of us just hanging on to our warmer pattern and also onto the more active kind of southwestern monsoonal flow pattern here are pretty high. I think that even as we move into the end of the month, if you are west of the Mississippi River, I think that the chances of seeing normal temperatures to warmer are higher than they are if you're in the east. And I just want to show you why I think that. Animation of our 500 millibar heights. Here goes the transitioning ridge. There it is. See it? By the time we get toward the fourth week of the month here, as we stretch this all the way out to the end of the month, we saw basically our ridge which started here, migrate there, and then migrate to here. And at this point, it's currently sitting right in this area. You can see it there. So the flow is doing something like this. And this is what's going to help the East Coast kind of return back over into some cooler weather. This is what issues in that bigger, higher atmospheric pressure system that comes in there that I talked about a few months ago, making the more showers and storms around its periphery. But the heat, I think, stays on in the southwest. It stays on in parts of Texas and Oklahoma as well on this pattern. Okay, just to talk about one more thing here as we finish this out. I do notice that even as we get out here to the end of July into the beginning of August, the models are really dominating the forecast position, all of them, of putting this big ridge sitting way out here in the central part of the Atlantic Ocean. That's common, but it's a little farther, I think, east than it normally is. And that means any would-be system that comes off of Africa will have to run the periphery of this. And the farther we can shove this to the to the east, the better chances we have of any would-be storm system kind of hugging around its periphery. Because remember, the flow around big highs is counterclockwise like this. That's clockwise. It's clockwise like that. So that would be a good thing if we keep that ridge way out in the open Atlantic, letting systems kind of curl around it rather than getting into the Gulf, into the Caribbean, and eventually hitting the United States. But as we've been talking about, remember, we have seen a weakening of El Nino back over toward INSO-neutral conditions. You could see that here in the ocean temps in the Pacific as well. And the atmosphere has responded by slacking a bit on the wind shear across the main development region here in the Atlantic. And at the same time that's gone on, we do see we got quite a bit of warm water in place here. So I guess what I'm trying to tell you is the ingredients are there for tropical systems to form should we get some waves off of Africa. But some good news is as we progress to the end of the month, if we keep that ridge over there in the central Atlantic, that's at least a better picture for getting systems to turn and miss the United States. And we'll of course keep a close eye on that. Now that says nothing for systems that brew out of the Caribbean, which is a bit more rare than it is here in the Gulf of Mexico. But still, we're going to watch these things carefully. Okay, with that, I'll go ahead and wrap up this forecast video right here. We at Nutrien Ag Solutions hope you look forward to our next Southern Region forecast coming out on Friday morning. Hope you have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.